I used to think getting abandoned on the side of the road while pregnant only happened in movies. That was until that 102-degree afternoon when I found myself stranded at a rest stop off Interstate 95 in Florida. Sweat running down my back, 9 months pregnant, belly heavy, and my husband Nathan had vanished without a trace. No goodbye, no explanation, not even a final glance. I'm Emily, 28 years old, an event coordinator, someone used to chaos and good at figuring things out. I thought I was smart enough to tell who was real and who was fake. But I was wrong, and that mistake left me standing in the blistering sun, no phone, no wallet, just an ID card stuffed in my shirt pocket, and a baby kicking inside me. 3 hours earlier, Nathan said he needed a break, told me I should use the restroom and cool off a bit. I'll grab some water and a few snacks, he said, then kissed my forehead, that same fake, rehearsed kiss he always did. I didn't suspect a thing. I was exhausted, my feet were swollen, my head was spinning. The rest stop bathroom was old, but it had air conditioning, which, at that moment, felt like heaven. But when I walked out less than 10 minutes later, all that was left was an empty parking space. The silver gray SUV, along with my husband, our bags, my hospital delivery kit, phone, and wallet, was gone. Like they had never existed. At first, I thought I had the wrong parking spot. I walked past every car, calling Nathan's name like someone who'd lost her mind. An older woman passing by gave me a sympathetic look and asked, "Honey, are you lost?" I didn't know how to answer. My vision blurred, my legs started to shake. My belly tightened with each contraction. I dragged myself to a souvenir shop nearby, lit by flickering fluorescent lights, the air thick with the smell of peppermint and gasoline. Behind the counter stood an elderly man, his face deeply lined but his eyes kind. Next to him was a girl, maybe 10 years old, folding old paper maps. I stammered. "My husband, he left me here. I don't have a phone, I don't have anything. I'm about to give birth." The man stepped out from behind the counter and helped me into a plastic chair. He handed me a cold bottle of water, his calloused hand resting gently on my shoulder. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Emily," I whispered. "Call roadside assistance and highway patrol for Miss Emily," he told the girl. Then he turned back to me. "Just sit here and breathe, it's gonna be okay." I wanted to believe him, but how could I? How does a husband abandon his wife when she's about to give birth? I'd heard of couples fighting during pregnancy, even divorcing, but leaving someone at a rest stop, under the blazing sun, on the side of the road, without a single message? That wasn't anger, that was planned. The panic was quickly overtaken by something far worse. The realization that this was intentional. This wasn't an accident. This was a planned disappearance. And I started digging through my memory. What had he said in the past few days? Was there anything off? Nathan had been quieter lately. He didn't ask much about the pregnancy anymore. Once, I caught him looking at a map, but the moment I got close, he shut off the screen. I thought it was a surprise birthday plan. Was I really that naive? An hour later, highway patrol arrived. They asked questions, took my statement. I gave them the car's details, the license plate, even handed over my ID so they could verify who I was. One officer offered to take me to the hospital to get checked. I refused. I wasn't leaving until I knew where he was. The man from the shop, his name was Stan, brought me a bag of cookies and a light blanket. His daughter Ellie gave me a pencil drawing she'd made, a mother and baby under the sun. I broke down. For the first time, I couldn't hold it together. I buried my face in my hands and sobbed, but through the tears, something became crystal clear. I was still here, me and my daughter. She hadn't been born yet, but she was kicking against my ribs like she was saying, "Mom, I'm still with you. Don't give up." That's when the shop's landline rang. Stan picked it up, then turned to me, his face darkening. "The police ran a credit check. Nathan just paid for a room at a luxury resort on the coast." But he hesitated, then handed me a printed slip. A strange number had texted his phone, an unknown sender. I took it, hands trembling. The message was just one line: "Don't look for me. This is what's best for both of us." I sat in silence in the break room at the police station, my swollen feet propped up on a freezing plastic chair, while 2 officers ran credit checks and tracked Nathan's license plate. I didn't even know what I hoped for more, that he'd been in some kind of accident, or that he was somewhere else, safe, and cruelly at peace. Less than 30 minutes later, One of the officers came back, holding a stack of printed papers and wearing a look that was part awkward, part furious. "Your husband just used his card to check into a 5-star resort on the St. Augustine coast," he said. 3.5 hours drive from here. We've already confirmed it with the hotel front desk. I let out a bitter laugh, the kind you make when there's nothing left to lose. A resort, the beach. Exactly the kind of line Nathan used to say, "We need a quiet place to wait for the baby." Turns out his version of waiting for the baby didn't include me. I pressed, "Is he alone?" The officer shook his head and laid a stack of stills from the hotel's lobby security cameras on the table. I didn't need to look closely. Blonde hair, fake smile, white maxi dress. Lisa, my best friend. The one who cried with me when I broke up with my first love. The one who swore she'd help me plan my dream wedding. My maid of honor, now walking hand in hand with my husband. I couldn't breathe, not because I was surprised, but because I finally saw how blind I'd been. Lisa used to work at Nathan's firm, because I got her the job after she was laid off. I once told my husband, I trust Lisa like I trust myself. Turns out, I should have doubted myself from the start. I remembered a night 3 months ago when Nathan told me he had to stay late with Lisa because she's being considered for the assistant director role. I had smiled, actually felt proud that my best friend had earned my husband's trust. I even told Lisa, "If you become the boss, I'll be the first one popping champagne." Maybe they'd been celebrating for a while. Just without me. I asked the officer, "Is there anything else?" He hesitated, then said, "According to the front desk, they booked a room for 3. Could be a mistake." No. There was no mistake here. They took my hospital bag. They took my ID, my bank cards, my doctor's appointment records. They took everything connected to the baby I was carrying, and now they were somewhere with air conditioning, crisp white sheets, and poolside cocktails. While I sat here shaking, contractions ripping through me, the on-call medic at the station checked my blood pressure. It was dangerously high. An ambulance was called immediately. I didn't argue. My body couldn't take it anymore. Lying on the stretcher, ceiling lights flashing overhead as the ambulance rolled out, one thought kept circling in my mind. Lisa once told me she never wanted to be a mom. We'd spent a whole night drinking smoothies, ranting about the pressure women face to have kids. She said, "Kids ruin careers." I'd never sacrifice my body for a tiny screaming human. So what now? She's on vacation with my husband, while I'm about to give birth? Could it be? I shoved the thought down. I couldn't afford to let my mind poison itself further. But one thing was clear. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment betrayal. Everything had been planned. From draining our joint account 3 days earlier, to Nathan insisting, "Let me hold on to the birth documents so they're easy to grab when we need them." Even the part where he suggested, "You should leave your phone charging in the glove box, just in case you drop it at the rest stop." I had handed everything over to a man who knew he was never coming back. At the hospital, they put me under special observation. My blood pressure was spiking, and early signs of preeclampsia had started to show. A nurse asked if there was any family member she should call. I shook my head. There was no one I trusted enough to call right now. When she left the room, I stared up at the ceiling and said nothing. What hurt the most wasn't Nathan's betrayal. It was Lisa's. The woman I saw as family. The one who knew every stage of my pregnancy. The one who once placed her hand on my belly and said, "She's probably gonna be as beautiful as her mom." I don't know how long I cried, but when the tears finally stopped, all that remained was a dry, aching silence. And a single, piercing thought: they didn't leave me. They removed me. They had a plan, and now, I would have a plan of my own. 2 days later, when I was discharged from the hospital, the first thing I did was call my personal lawyer, the same one who had helped Nathan and me draft a prenuptial agreement before the wedding. I needed to know what I had left. The answer sent a chill straight through me. "Our joint bank account was emptied 3 days ago," she said. "The entire 5 years' worth of savings, gone." I gripped the phone tighter. 3 days ago, before Nathan even put me in the car to go home and rest. That meant this had all been mapped out. He knew exactly what he was doing, when he'd do it, and how to leave me with nothing but panic. "Thankfully, your personal assets weren't touched," the lawyer continued. The prenup locked down everything you owned before the marriage. He can't touch any of it. If that was the only thing I could be grateful for in this entire marriage, so be it. I still had an apartment in my name, a separate savings account, and one last sliver of faith in the legal system. I couldn't go home. The apartment Nathan and I once shared was likely under his full control now. I needed somewhere safe, not just for me, but for the child I was carrying. So I moved into a support center for single mothers in Jacksonville, a place a colleague in the event industry had told me about long ago, just in case everything ever fell apart. I never thought I'd actually need it. The place was small, but warm. 6 other mothers lived there, each carrying a story, a scar, and a child either waiting to be born or already cradled in their arms. No one asked too many questions. They just let me sit down, handed me a bowl of warm porridge, and let me cry. In the shared room, I met Yvonne, a woman in her 40s, sharp eyes and a voice deep and steady like aged wood. She was a volunteer legal advisor at the center, once a high-profile family attorney in Atlanta. Now she chose to help women who'd been left behind, women like me. "I know you don't just need a roof over your head," she said, placing a hand on my hospital file. "You need a strategy. If he was calculated enough to empty your accounts, he won't stop there." I nodded, but I didn't expect the next blow to come so fast. Yvonne scanned the legal records, cross-referenced the court system, and said, "Nathan just filed for full custody. His claim, wife is mentally unstable, shows signs of self-harm, and lacks a suitable environment for raising a newborn." I froze. Every moment of exhaustion, every tear I shed in that hospital room, every sharp ache in my chest from being abandoned, it had all been part of Nathan's plan. "Did you send him any messages during your panic?" Yvonne asked. I shook my head. "I didn't have a phone. He kept everything." Yvonne exhaled. "Good. Then now, we build our case." And we did. Piece by piece, detail by detail. Footage from the rest stop, showing me standing there in shock, heavily pregnant, empty-handed, panic in my eyes. Testimonies from Stan, the shop owner, and his daughter Ellie, who had both witnessed Nathan leaving me behind. Medical reports from the hospital, documenting my admission for severe stress and high blood pressure after being abandoned. Yvonne worked like someone who had lived through this herself. Every night I heard the click of her keyboard from down the hall, phone calls to police departments, notary offices, hospitals. I was no longer the woman curled up, sobbing into her belly. I began documenting everything, every contraction, every emotion, every detail that could become evidence. Not to vent, but to protect my child. "He's building a narrative where you're the unstable mother," Yvonne said. "Over-emotional, out of control. We're going to tear that story apart, line by line." I learned how to speak without my voice shaking, how to look at the case files and not see weakness. I was the mother. I was the one left behind, but I wasn't going to be erased. One night, I lay in bed, hand resting on my belly. Hope kicked. Once, then again, like she was reminding me, "You're on the right path, Mom." I whispered to my baby, "Nathan didn't just leave me. He's trying to take you from me. But I won't let that happen." The first hearing took place on a gray Monday morning, but inside me was a clarity I'd never felt before. I wore a modest navy maternity dress, hair tied back, eyes steady, not to impress anyone, but to show him and the court that I wasn't the fragile woman he'd painted in his carefully crafted file. Nathan walked into the courtroom without a flicker of emotion. Pressed light gray suit, burgundy tie. Next to him, a sharply dressed attorney with a designer leather briefcase and a gaze that said this was just another easy case to win. They went first. Nathan's lawyer opened the folder and launched into a list of so-called evidence of my mental instability. Clips, carefully cut, from our apartment's security camera showing me pacing at night. Photos of me crying in the OBGYN's office. A short audio recording of my voice saying, "I don't know how much more I can take." I didn't blink. What they had were fragments, painful moments pulled out of context and stitched into a distorted version of me. The lawyer ended with, "My client simply wants the child raised in a stable environment, free from emotional volatility or unpredictable behavior from the mother." Nathan never looked at me. He sat straight, hands clasped together, playing the role of the wounded one. When it was our turn, Yvonne stepped forward, sharp as a blade. "We have evidence that Mr. Nathan Caldwell intentionally abandoned his pregnant wife. Do any day. At a highway rest stop in 102-degree heat, Yvonne began, voice unwavering. No belongings. No way to contact anyone. No medical support. This wasn't just negligence, it was life-endangering. She presented stills from the rest stop camera, eyewitness testimony, hospital documentation showing my pre-eclampsia after being left behind. Then I was asked to speak. My heart was pounding, but my voice held steady. I won't deny I cried. I was scared. I lost my composure. But that is a normal reaction from a woman left alone on the side of the road, about to give birth. And I didn't fall apart. I went to the police, I got to a hospital, I protected myself. I'm not unstable. I was betrayed. The room fell silent. Yvonne pressed on. We also have information about the woman Mr. Caldwell was with at the resort where he checked in immediately after abandoning his wife. Her name is Lisa Monroe. She held up a thin folder, small in size, heavy in impact. Lisa was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, documented in a psychological treatment file from 4 years ago. She was also issued a formal warning for assault during a jealous altercation at a bar in 2019. Nathan flinched. For the first time, his eyes blinked rapidly. Yvonne didn't stop. She read from a formal incident report filed by the resort. Staff at the St. Augustine Resort reported multiple disruptive behaviors by Lisa Monroe during her stay. She was heard shouting in the lobby, banging on other guests' doors at midnight, and was asked to leave the pool area after showing signs of emotional instability. The court requested verification. Every document was a legally certified copy. Nathan's lawyer began to stumble. He asked the court for time to review the materials. Request denied. I sat there, my back straighter than it had been in weeks. No shouting, no tears. The truth was speaking for itself. At the end of the hearing, the judge gave a preliminary ruling. Based on the current evidence and pending independent psychological evaluations from both parties, the court orders temporary suspension of Mr. Nathan Caldwell's direct contact with the child and with the plaintiff, Emily Caldwell. All communication must occur only through legal counsel or during official court proceedings. Under the table, I gently squeezed Yvonne's hand. There was no need for loud victory. Just the way I stood, eyes steady on Nathan as I walked out of the courtroom, calm, silent, but absolutely sure. And for the first time, he couldn't look back. That's when I knew. The balance had shifted. And this time, I was the one holding the weight. Hope was born on a cool morning in a small public hospital in Jacksonville. She weighed 3.1 kilograms, her skin pink, eyes tightly shut, but her tiny hand gripped my finger like the world outside wasn't so scary as long as I was there. I named her Hope, not just because she was the only thing that pulled me through the storm, but because she became the answer to every question I'd asked over the past few months. The birth wasn't easy. I was worn down from stress and sleepless nights, but the medical team was incredible. For the first time in a long time, I felt safe. When I heard her cry, my tears fell. Not from pain, but because, for the first time on this entire journey, I knew I wasn't alone anymore. I recovered faster than the doctors expected. Maybe because I was no longer trapped in waiting, doubt, or rage. My mind was clear, my body lighter, my spirit finally beginning to return. The hurt was still there. It doesn't vanish overnight, but I stopped letting it lead the way. I let my daughter do that now. 2 weeks after giving birth, the final custody hearing was held. Nathan didn't show up. His lawyer did, but there was nothing left to fight for. The evidence spoke for itself. Abandonment, falsified claims, emptying a joint bank account without consent, medical proof of my stability, and the risk posed by the woman he ran away with. The judge took less than 15 minutes to deliver the ruling. I was granted full custody of Hope. Nathan was barred from any form of contact with us until further notice from the court, if that ever came. On top of that, he was now under investigation by the Department of Justice for financial fraud, including using my name to secure a personal credit advance while I was stranded and vulnerable. He had no way out. As I stepped out of the courthouse, a soft breeze moved through my hair, and I knew, for the first time in months, I had my name back, Emily Caldwell. Not as a victim, but as a choice. I went back to event planning just 1 month after giving birth. Some of my old clients called, surprised to hear I was still in business. I heard what happened to you, one of them said. I figured if you got back up after that, you can probably run an event better than ever. I didn't argue, because it was true. During those post-divorce days, I learned how to organize my emotions even better than I organized seating charts and vendor calls. Hope slept peacefully in the bassinet next to my desk, in a home filled with sunlight and the sound of typing instead of shouting. I submitted an application to work part-time as a counselor at the women's center that had once helped me. They hired me immediately, not for my credentials, but for my story. Lisa, the woman who used to be my best friend, vanished from social media like she'd never existed. Some mutual friends said she deleted everything. The articles about the trial spread quietly. No scandal needed, just the truth, laid out in full. Her silence was the clearest answer anyone could ask for. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't need to. Sometimes the most just outcome isn't watching someone fall, it's realizing they no longer have power over you. One afternoon, I took Hope to the beach, not some luxury resort, just a small stretch of white sand and soft wind. She curled against my chest, sleeping soundly as the waves rolled in. I sat on a blanket watching the sun drop, orange streaks bleeding across the sea, and I whispered to her, "They thought they abandoned me, but the truth is, I was set free." Not everyone who enters your life is meant to stay until the end, and not everyone who leaves is a loss. Some betrayals come like storms, ripping apart everything you once trusted. But it's from that wreckage that you get the chance to rebuild, this time for yourself and for the things that truly matter. I've learned this. No one gets to define you by your weakest moment. People can steal your money, your promises, even your reputation. But if you hold on to your heart, you've lost nothing. Hope is my daughter's name, but it's also the name I've given to this new chapter of my life. A life with no more control games, no more pretending, no more begging to be loved, only truth, clarity, and a firm belief I deserve to be loved the right way. What about you? Have you ever had to rise after being betrayed? Have you ever been underestimated and then made them regret it by living better, not bitter? Drop a comment below. And if you saw even a piece of yourself in this story, don't forget to subscribe to Love Stories, where we share, heal, and grow stronger, one story at a time.